I look at the hospital fee schedule because it's public every year. And then I email my negotiator person at each company, and I'm like, you guys are paying them an insane amount of money for a PT visit, and you guys won't even do a fourth of that for us.
Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julo.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creemee.
Vermont, politics, culture, and beyond.
Thanks for joining us.
Ready?
Ready.
All right. You sure you don't want to say it?
Hello, and welcome to There's No Way in Creemee.
Hello.
I said it.
You said it.
I did the intro.
Oh my God, that was
Still
amazing.
the same show.
Yeah, it's the same show. Yeah, you're in the right place. You haven't played the wrong podcast.
I think that's your line.
Yeah.
I think you've taken it and you've made it yours.
Okay. Well, I'll say it next time.
I bet a lot of people out there are just cringing and that doesn't sound right.
I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
So when I was Chittenden County Dems chair during the 2024 cycle, so that was when you ran, but before you ran during the primary, we had a really interesting scenario happen in Chittenden County, which I had not heard of before. So the way I came up in the world of politics was that parties were neutral during the primary. The primary was the opportunity for the party collectively, and I'm talking about the party infrastructure and the voters, to choose the party nominee, and then they would go on to the general election and the parties would get behind whoever the nominee was. Every state party probably has something called the coordinated campaign. And I think we've talked a little about this before on the podcast in reference to your campaign, maybe way back.
Way back, probably.
But I bet we didn't explain it in the glossary of shame, so it's good we're doing this.
Excellent.
So the coordinated campaign is a construct where the party hires staff and creates a budget to run a campaign in the general election to support all the Democratic nominees. And it's you buy into the coordinated, so at least in Vermont. So you have to pay kind of a fee to the party, and then they include you in all their mailers, and they canvass for you and all this stuff. And when canvassers go to the door, they're talking about everyone on the ticket there, not from governor on down to House Rep. Right. And that's what the coordinated generally is. In Vermont, last year was the first time I saw that the Vermont State Party leveraged the coordinated campaign as a fee-for-service operation during the primary, where primary candidates could pay for the party to campaign for them specifically during the primary, meaning that the party would functionally be taking sides in exchange for a fee to buy in. And that created a lot of problems for me because that was happening at the state party level, and that violates our county bylaws. Our bylaws are that we have to stay neutral in a primary. And I think almost all, if not every single county committee in the state has that in their bylaws, that we remain neutral. And so they were mobilizing, campaigning for the incumbents, and we had a challenger. And people were getting very upset about that. And so, I had pushed back on the party a little bit, and I said, hey, could you guys not do this? It's making our lives really difficult. And I didn't get any traction there. And that been kind of raising it slowly, over the past 2 years and saying, hey, I really want to see the party make a commitment to primary neutrality. And our DNC chair, Ken Martin, our new-ish DNC chair, actually has made quite a show of party neutrality and how important it is in primaries to let the primary voters decide without the party itself tilting the tables. I raised it in the last state committee meeting here in Vermont because I'm on the state committee. I'm one of the 2 delegates for the county. And, I got this sort of, interesting response that oh, well, every candidate can buy in. And I kind of felt well, neutrality shouldn't be for sale, right? It shouldn't be oh, I have to pay for them to campaign for me in order to not campaign against me. They just shouldn't be taking sides in the primary. And it's funny because when I brought this up 2 years ago, I never in a million years thought I would be one of the candidates that could be a victim of this.
Yes, you're on record going back. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I really am. And I really was upset about it. And and it's crazy because now it could happen to me. And I was kind of like, hey guys, remember how I brought this up a couple years ago? And I'm still not getting any traction on it. And we're going to hopefully get it on the May agenda to hopefully pass a resolution at the May meeting. But I'm just, yeah.
So national party has neutrality, county party has neutrality, in the middle with the state, maybe not so much. So the House and Senate operate differently, though, because the Senate you have to buy in. The House, you're automatically bought in. I think everybody buys in. Do they have different policies about neutrality in the primary, the House and Senate?
Okay,
races?
There's a lot here.
All right.
So, so first of all, I'd love to break down what we mean by, when we talk about the caucuses, we talked about this in an early episode, but when we talk about the caucuses, we're talking about the Democratic House members are the House caucus, and the Democratic senators are the Senate caucus. And so when we say the caucuses, we're talking about those constructs. And then the caucuses are like bodies that are subdivisions of the state party. And they use the same campaign finance filing. They're the same legal entity. And so they do have different policies with the coordinated, but those change from year to year. So with the House last time in 24, the House bought into the coordinated wholesale. And so every House, and this was in the general election, every Democratic House nominee was being supported by the coordinated campaign. The Senate didn't do that. And so they were not, it was just like some people were covered and some people weren't. And you had a really interesting experience with that.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought in, but I didn't get any help in the primary. They stayed neutral. They sold it to me and then declared neutrality.
Yeah. And we didn't get a ton of help in the general.
We did not.
Yeah. Like I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus,
Right.
but it definitely wasn't what was promised.
Right.
Yeah. And that's always hard when you're especially when you're like a new candidate, you're like newer on the scene, and the coordinator says, oh, we're going to do all these things. And then they don't ever follow up and say they're not going to do it. And it's like, it gets late really fast.
They threw out some numbers about, what they could provide. And I thought, I am set.
Yeah.
And I was not.
Yeah. The coordinated is, to me, the best scenario of the coordinated is during the general election, if the top of the ticket, whoever is like running for governor and then LG, can bring up the bottom of the ticket with them and like really be a standard bearer for the party. The only value I can see it really having during the primary is get out the vote. Like, hey, have you registered? Like, are you like, that kind of stuff is great. But like for a $2,000 buy-in, I don't see how it could possibly be worth it to undermine the party's credibility as neutral. To me, that just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised that we're back to this. And so it came up this last weekend in the state committee. I was really at my in-laws at the draft, and I zoomed in Saturday morning from my nephew's gaming room. It was funny, my background, I feel like the background in the Zoom looked fake because it was like shelves of like all this like storage. It looked like really funny. But so I just can't believe we're back to this. And I really, really hope that, the party statewide really does commit to neutrality, because I think it's really important. I want the voters to believe in the outcome as, being chosen wholly by the voters.
So we have a great interview today, and I've just been enjoying like the string of episodes that we've had.
Yeah.
We've been talking about healthcare. Owen Foster was a great guest.
Amazing.
And so many people have commented on that. And today we have Alex LeClair, who is a CEO at a primary care facility, a physical therapy, Essex Physical Therapy, which has multiple offices. We have an interview with Steve Leffler coming up to talk about the hospital side. Mm-hmm. And it's just been fascinating. We've heard so much about the balance between government healthcare systems, Medicare and Medicaid, and how they underpay. And so then we have to overcharge private insurance to make that balance. And then we've got this issue of hospitals, and particularly rural hospitals. They have to have fairly high reimbursements to make the numbers work and keep their doors open. But then that squeezes primary care, because then they have to lower the primary care reimbursement to make the hospitals higher. And so there's this constant balance going on. So that's been a really interesting conversation to continue to flesh out here. We've had some great statewide candidates. It's just been a really good run. We had your episode with your launch. It's just been really fun, and people have been responding and reaching out to us about those episodes. And it's been a period of growth here on there's no A in Creemee.
Yeah, the analytics have been strong. The feedback has been amazing. Huge appreciation to our listeners, new and early adopters, for listening and letting us know what you liked hearing. That was always, it's just been, it's been great. We've had an amazing run, and we're going to keep at it for sure.
And we're going to have a great interview today, as I mentioned, with Alex LeClair, great Vermont name.
Yeah.
He is the CEO of Essex Physical Therapy.
Yeah,
and
young guy.
Young guy, very bright, native Vermonter, or grew up here, left the state, and decided he really wanted to come back. And, we had a good conversation about healthcare and the challenges of primary care. But it kind of dawned on both of us as we were talking to him that as you've been out talking to people for months about the challenges in the district, as you thought about running for Senate, this notion of like the 30-year-old kid living in the basement came up again and again.
Yeah. And he was the embodiment of it.
He's the embodiment of it. He's a professional. He's a bright guy. He saved up a bunch of money so he could have a down payment for a house to come back here to Vermont, and he's in his parents' basement because that down payment is not enough to buy housing here. And it's only through the stubbornness and wanting to be here that he's a Vermonter. And he's exactly the kind of person we need here and the challenges that they're facing.
I really appreciated hearing his take, like just hearing the primary care experience of being in the healthcare system. I just think that voice is often lost, and they have really intense challenges, and that is the front line of care, And so it was really great to hear from him. And then it was kind of amazing to be like, oh my God, you're the guy, you're the person we're trying to save, we're trying to keep here. So it was really fun to meet him. And
I mean, I went out to get him from the lobby. We were recording 2 sessions that day, and he was watching a House committee on his phone. So I thought this is our kind of nerd.
Oh,
Let's bring him
totally.
back. Yeah.
Awesome. Yay. Well, we hope you guys enjoy this interview. Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creemee. Alex LeClair.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you tell us a little about yourself and what we're going to be talking about?
Sure. I grew up in Essex, went to Essex High School, went to UVM, moved to Boston, worked for a sales company selling windows and doors for 5 years, and then I got the call from my mom that her billing person in the PT clinic was leaving.
Oh, wow.
So packed up my stuff and moved up here on July 4th of 2022 and been here ever since in the basement.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So you're in the administrative side.
Yeah, so I'm on the back end side.
Yeah. So you're not a physical therapist.
Not
you're
a PT.
Just administration.
I wanted to be a PT, but it's
Oh, wow.
an extra $90,000 at UVM, and I wasn't willing to give them more money.
Yeah. I can see that is not super appealing, that part of it.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
We're so curious to hear your perspective as, we're really interested in healthcare and, obviously Vermont needs to do something about healthcare costs, right? It's out of control. It's not accessible to a lot of Vermonters. And can you share with us a little about what is it like to run the administrative end of a healthcare provider?
It is, sometimes it's described as a madhouse day to day. So we have 3 different locations. So we have 2 in Essex, 1 in Georgia, and then we have a mobile division. So
Wow.
we go to, it's not like the VNA or like hospice. We like people who don't have cars. PTs will go to their house, get them
Wow.
treatment, drive around. So yeah, it is, we have about 30, 35 staff. 20-ish clinicians, and then it's basically my mom, and then me and my best friend from high school are the 2 admins. So he's the operations guy, and I'm the sending out the claims, negotiating with the insurance companies person, and collecting old money. So that's kind of my day-to-day role, and helping patients answer questions about their bills, because most people have no idea what the bill is even essentially describing. I think that's one of the bigger issues in our healthcare system.
Yeah. Well, that was the next part of this question, I guess, is what are the big challenges?
PT wise, I would say authorizations. So there's different rules for different insurance companies. So like Blue Cross of Vermont, no authorization needed, don't need a referral. You can get right in as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Anthem Blue Cross, so out-of-state Blue Cross, you might need an authorization. So before you can come in, we have to send out paperwork, like request visits. It'll take a week or two to come back, and then we can get you in, which is just delaying care.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the...
So that means like if I am on Blue Cross Blue Shield of Vermont,
Okay.
so like I can just call my PT and be like, oh, my back hurts.
You can call PT.
But
Yep.
for other folks, it means they have to go to their primary care first and be seen and referred. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
I can see how that would be, a pain.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. It's in like TRICARE, like the military people, they need an authorization.
Oh, wow.
Advantage people, sometimes, well, we don't really have Advantage plans anymore, but Humana is still around. We still see those patients. They need an authorization. Workers' comp, you need an authorization for however many visits.
Wow, I'm in a very privileged class.
Yeah, the authorization part is probably the most painful for my buddy who does them. You have to sit on the phone, talk to someone in a different country, which is just, we are just delaying care and not providing the care efficiently. And that is a big issue in the insurance world and on the back end side of a primary care PT clinic.
And we touched on this a little bit with Owen Foster in our interview, is that we don't have enough primary care providers, in part because the business model of it is so difficult. So you mentioned you negotiate with health insurance companies. What's it like for you to negotiate the same procedure versus a giant hospital?
Yeah, my leverage is completely different. There's essentially 3 big PT clinics in the Chittenden County area. It's the Rehab Gym, PT 360, and us. We essentially, this is what I do. I look at the hospital fee schedule because it's public every year. And then I email my negotiator person at each company, and I'm like, you guys are paying them an insane amount of money for a PT visit, and you guys won't even do a fourth of that for us. Usually, and I love doing that, but at the same time, it's painful because the patients, if they have a high deductible plan, they're the ones paying it. They're paying the premium that is outrageous already, and then they're also paying their deductible and their out-of-pocket max. That, like, I just had a conversation this morning. This guy has a great plan, $1,000 deductible. He's paying his deductible to us, and he's like, I can't afford $200 every single visit. But meanwhile, the hospital for the same insurance company is getting $800 for the same visit. That makes no sense. And then there's also clinics who are single practitioner, small, no leverage. They're in the middle of nowhere, Vermont, in a town that I don't even know the name of, and I should. They're getting $65 a visit from the same company. It makes no sense across the board.
I don't understand why it's not standardized.
That is going through, I was in the lobby listening to House Bill 5H, it's 585. If it passes, they're doing site neutral billing. So the hospitals are going to come down. The PT clinics who are at $65 or whatever they're at are going to come up, and we should be somewhere in the middle. So it's going to be a big win for the primary, like PT clinics, but it's going to be, I have no idea how much the hospitals make on PT, but I know that's a big margin service for sure, especially with the amounts they're getting reimbursed.
And how does that, is there some redistribution? Is that what they're proposing, or is it give you more leverage when you negotiate?
I think they're doing it as a test case.
Okay.
To see, like, prime example, like if I go to the doctor, I go to Evergreen, I know what CPT code my PCP is going to bill. It's $250 for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Fine with me. That same code at UVM for the same 5-10 minutes is $100 to $150 more for the same service. So I think they're using the PTs as kind of the guinea pigs to see how much money can the state save as far as premiums. I would say we should get a little bump. The independent clinics, a lot of the smaller ones are going to get a big bump, but any savings should be put towards driving down the cost of premiums. Like when I moved back here, I was paying $200 a month for my healthcare premium, and I was paying $1,200 in rent in Boston. I moved back here, and it's $900 a month for a healthcare premium, and then $2,200 for a single bedroom. Like that is just total. Like, what are we doing? Yeah, it's just not right. The premiums are way too high, and it's from the prices at the hospitals. It's not the independent clinics. It is the hospitals have the most negotiating leverage, and the insurance companies. I always talk to my mom about this. They have to say yes. If they go out of network, the hospitals can bill whatever amount of money, and they are going to be required to pay once the patient hits the out of network, out of pocket max. So like most on like your insurance card, your in network deductible is, let's say, $5,000. Your out of network deductible is $10,000. Once you go over that 10, the insurance company has to pay no matter what. And that's, I mean, everyone is in network, and I should say we're only out of network with one insurance company, and that's because they won't even pay us the Medicaid or Medicare rate in Vermont, which is like we can't do business doing that. So we do consulting. My mom, who's the owner of the clinic, she does consulting with the other PTs, and I talk to other clinics in different states on strategies of how to negotiate because they have no clue what to do, and they just are like, we are barely making it. We can't offer health insurance to our employees. Like, how do you attract a doctorate level PT and not offer health insurance? And so they're going on the exchange, and it's insanely expensive, and PTs usually make above the enhanced premium tax credit that everyone's talking about, and so they're paying $25,000, $30,000 a year in premiums plus the out-of-pocket. So like it is totally unsustainable. What we need to be talking about is the prices. The prices, there's, I mean, UVM's in my backyard, so I always look at their prices. Their PT prices specifically are so high. I know what the break-even number is for our business. Theirs is probably a little higher, but what they're getting reimbursed, there's like probably a $600 margin per visit, and it's going towards what? The C-suite people are getting bonuses. That not acceptable. I think with Dr. LeClair in charge, it should start turning around. I did go to the Bernie town hall with Dr. LeClair. I was sitting there very angry the entire time. But I think with him in charge, it should, I mean, they know it's a price issue. It's not, we don't have the people to treat people. It's the price. That is the issue.
You know, it's funny, my dad worked in public medicine his whole career. He worked at a big public hospital, and then he went on to another big public hospital. And he was so committed to trying to bring down costs. And he actually even wrote a book on how primary care could be more intentional about what tests they order to keep down costs. And it just kind of hurts my heart how money, the whole system is driven by money now. It just seems crazy to me.
It is all money-based. And, I mean, I believe that we should have a single-payer system, but the feds need to do it. Vermont is just so tiny.
Yeah.
And if the hammer comes down on the hospital prices, some of them might not make it. There is a very fine balance. I look at the hospital's annual audited statements, their financials. It's very tight in some small areas, and then there's the big behemoth on the hill, UVM, they made $90 million last year. It's like, all right, we gotta start dropping some prices here. Like this is ridiculous.
And one of the things I encounter just supporting small businesses is you open a small business and you have a special skill, but then you have to do marketing and your own website and your own books. And then if you are a medical provider, you have to be a professional negotiator, no matter how small you are. I mean, it's just insane to expect them to be able to have that skill.
That's the kind of the biggest thing, because when I came back in 2022, basically the rates that we were getting paid were just given to us. My mom never asked for increases. It was just, this is what you're getting.
Yep.
After 6 months, it was year end. I was like, even her accountant was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're basically doing like there's no extra money, which there really shouldn't be. Like, we're like physical therapy clinic. Like, we shouldn't be making hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's ridiculous." But basically, there were certain insurance companies who were below Medicaid rates, which it's like, what are we doing? So we have to talk to those insurance companies and say, this is what you're paying the hospitals. We offer the same service at a significantly lower price. Can we just get a little bit more so that we can invest in our people? I would say basically 97% of the money that comes in goes immediately out to our employees and paying rent and taxes, property taxes, health insurance. We're going to pay right around $130,000 this year just for healthcare premiums. Yeah, it is wild.
You listened to our interview with Owen Foster, and we talked a lot about the interaction of the Green Mountain Care Board and hospitals. But what is your experience as a primary care provider with the Green Mountain Care Board?
The direction that the board is going in is the best that I've seen it in 3 years. He is. I think everyone on the board right now they all have their little niches of what they are good at, and he knows the problem is the prices. And the prices are reflected in our premiums. We're the highest in the country. Like, it is just not sustainable for any Vermonter. I mean, we have 30-year-olds who are married, no kids, can't afford a house. I mean, they're living at their in-laws' house, or they're living in the basement like me. That is the biggest kind of thing that we need to be driving care out of the hospitals to lower cost of care, or if there is no other alternative to get the care, they need to drop the prices. It's that simple.
Okay, so you have been at this gig since 22, you said?
Yeah.
Is that right? Do you have any perception, this might just like not be in your scope, but I know you've done a lot of work in advocacy in this area. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, do you feel like the situation has changed? Did we do it better before for some reason?
I mean, so I was a young lad, as some of my buddies would say, when the health network was formed in 2014. I think coming out of COVID, Owen said it, like they wanted a 20% price increase in 1 year. And the board gave them, before he joined, gave them 15%. Mm-hmm. No business gets a 15% bump immediately. Yeah. Like if I got a 15% bump on all of the insurance companies, I would say this is way too much money. I mean, maybe I have a heart and I know that the patients are going to be paying the bill, but it affects the teachers' plan and the state employees' plan because we all pay for it. The prices that are driving the cost of care, we're all paying for it, and we need to at some point say, all right, we're either going to have a bunch of uninsured people and they're going to end up in the hospital and say, we don't have insurance. The hospital has to treat them legally, and then they don't get paid, and then everyone goes under together. So if we can be all on the same team and drive down the cost of the prices, we can be successful, and we can kind of be the model for the country is we're all skyrocketing, but we need to kind of cap what's going on and then slowly bring down the price. I mean, everyone that I talk to, premiums is the number one thing that they talk about. I can't afford $700, $1,000 for family plan, $3,300 a month. That's not very inviting to move to Vermont if you're going to be paying $3,300 a month for a healthcare premium that you probably are not going to use because you're so terrified of what the bill is. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Well, we have a big opportunity coming up with the Rural Transformation Fund. We have investments from the federal government. We can't use those for sustainable costs, but we need to invest in trying to lower costs in the state. Where would you like to see those dollars go? Where would that help most for you?
I think some of it should be used. I mean, some of the hospitals will not like this, but everyone needs to be on the same EMR system. They need to be able to see each other's x-rays, diagnostics, everything. We, as a PT clinic, have access to Epic, viewing access only. So we can see when...
Could you explain what an EMR is for
So,
the listeners?
electronic medical records. So basically, if you come in, your ID gets scanned, you have your patient profile, you have your insurance, at least what I see is your insurance benefits. So I can put in your deductible, co-insurance. Basically, we know what you're going to have to pay. If you have different EMR systems that don't talk to each other, you're going to run the same x-ray, you're going to do the same test at two different places versus if you had access to Epic that UVM uses, you can tell, oh, we don't need to do this, and we can save $1,000 on an x-ray or whatever it is. I think some money should be used for that, especially for the small hospitals because they don't have the money to get a nice, expensive EMR system. Some of them don't want it because they don't like it.
Right.
I do take calls for EMR companies wanting our kind of business, and that's kind of it's just software, right? But it's $40,000 a year for just kind of keeping track of a schedule.
Oh, wow.
And then there's other EMR companies that take a percentage of your revenue. So think about that. So basically, if we do $2 million in revenue, they want 5% of it. Doesn't matter who it's coming from. That's a big expense. And what they're doing is just providing a software system. We don't have that. It's way too expensive. They are very nice, but there's basically different features where if you want to be efficient, you have to spend the money to be efficient. And an EMR software is one of the ways that you can be efficient. The other efficient...
So like my chart is kind of
yeah.
the
I think
consumer
it's part
end
of
that?
Yeah. My chart is the other side, patient-wise. That's what you see.
Yeah.
I hate having my information out there, so I don't sign up for anything.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think one of that should be big. There's limitations on what they can spend the money on. I know that we got a lot of money.
Yeah.
One of the higher ones out of the 50 states. I mean, it's way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But any way that they can kind of move, they can't even do what I would want to do. They'll find a way to spend the money,
right.
But it needs to be used efficiently.
Yeah, it's fortunate we did that Oliver Wyman study, so we sort of have a blueprint for how to do it. Yeah.
There's been a lot of changes to healthcare spending from the federal government over the past few years. And as you probably know, 30,000 Vermonters lost their ACA subsidies just this year. I'm curious how that has affected your business and your patient load and how you see it playing out in the Vermont ecosystem.
Well, I was one of those people, so it's one of them. I would say it's kind of interesting. So our clinic is bursting at the seams. We cannot get people in as quick as I want to. There are the clinics that you can get in a week or two. We're 4 to 6 weeks. I would say a lot of the people who are lost the enhanced subsidies, they are not coming to PT, or they are drastically like they were coming in every other week. Now they'll come in maybe once a month or every other month. Not good as far as patient care, but that's just what their budget can handle. I would say there was basically at the end of the year, I did a cost benefit analysis of, all right, can we get an affordable plan outside of the exchange, or should we stay on the exchange and just increase what we're helping out our employees for staying on the exchange? It was basically a $40,000 difference between us staying on the exchange with no subsidies versus getting our own plan and going it that way. Again, the premiums are based on the prices. And if the prices are too high, the premiums are going to be high, and you can find a better deal outside of the exchange. But even with Blue Cross's position, and its competition is key. If Blue Cross is basically bankrupt because the hospitals bully them,
Right.
they need to make up the margin on next year's premiums. So basically, Blue Cross made $60 million last year. That doesn't even get them to their reserve level. So it's like we have to wait another year for Blue Cross to be competitive with MVP and Cigna again. So yeah, people are limiting their care is the biggest takeaway. I would say the businesses themselves, if you can't afford to pay for a plan, it is outrageous. I found the best possible plan that I could, and because I'm in the weeds every day, and we still have a $4,000 deductible, $7,000 out of pocket max, and it's crazy. It is literally insane.
I'm sitting here and thinking that you are exactly the sort of person that we want to keep here in Vermont. You're a native Vermonter. You're a professional. And I'm just curious, top to bottom, what are the biggest barriers to living in Vermont right now? Is it housing? Is it healthcare?
I would say number one is housing. Mm-hmm. Housing is the number one issue, followed really closely by healthcare, number two.
Yeah.
If we don't have houses for young professionals and families to move into, school budgets get strained because there's no kids. There's basically nowhere for young professionals to move into that is under $1,500 a month, basically. That's like a halfway decent apartment. I was paying $1,200 in Boston for a 2-bedroom apartment. Me and my buddy were splitting it $1,200 a piece. It was outdated. It was from the 80s, but everything worked. Right. And you knew our landlord was good. You could get anything fixed immediately. Here, I lived in Burlington when I went to UVM. The prices that we used to pay when I was in school, I graduated in 2017, we were paying, I think, $700 a month per bedroom in our house. And now that same house, I checked on Zillow, is $1,000 a bedroom. Wow. So there is a big time housing crunch. And I think, this is such a Vermonter problem, but we don't like building,
right?
Which is, I don't understand why. If people are going to complain about the property taxes and the healthcare premiums, we need to get more people in so that it's more diversified, so we can drive them down. And I live in the Essex town, but the Junction is one of those kind of guinea pig. They're going to build up big buildings.
Yeah,
I am all for it. It is, yes, it will change the look and the vibe at the Junction, but we need people to be able to afford to stay here. My buddy that I work with, he used to live in St. Thomas and just work virtually. That sounds very appealing compared to Vermont. And his wife's a teacher, and that's the other thing too. And I would just say the professions that we want people in, healthcare, teachers, education, both of my little brothers work in the trades. We need them. And the builders are just, I should say, they basically are well, we could put up 10 small houses or we could put up 4 big ones. We make a lot more money on the big ones. I think the prefab home idea, the getting 10 pre-approved homes, you just need to get a piece of land and then build. I think that is a great idea, and we need to build housing as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is the issue.
Yeah,
I mean,
and a large percentage of your classmates that you graduated high school from probably not here, right? That left. Yeah.
no,
me
I mean,
too.
of my like inner circle of friends, 2 are here.
Yep.
One is in St. Albans with his in-laws, and my other buddy is he is in like the other side of the state, like up north above the 89-91 split. And this is another kind of great example of the healthcare cuts. He is on Medicaid, so he is a paraplegic or quadriplegic. He got in a ski accident when he was 21. The brightest kid, happiest kid, still is the happiest kid.
Wow.
Loves Vermont. He can't make above a threshold money-wise, otherwise he'll lose his Medicaid. So he's on Medicare primary, but Medicaid secondary. He called me when these cuts were happening last summer and was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford my catheters. They're $7 a piece. I have to use them every time I go to the bathroom. Like, that is, if the state doesn't have the money, because we're going to start getting cut. I mean, this is another good talking point. The provider taxes, no one knows anything about them. The hospitals have to pay 6% of their revenue back to the state to get a federal funds match for Medicaid. Starting next year, I think it goes from 6% is the max you can charge. It goes to 5.5, then 5, 4.5. It just drains money for the Medicaid program, and then people like him who are on Medicaid are going to be on Medicaid are going to have to start paying for things that he needs to live but doesn't have the money to afford. So that is what's going to happen unless we have a big reversal coming up here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a big impact. It's not good.
Should we pivot to our last question?
Probably.
Start there?
Yep.
Hard pivot, because you have shared so much with us, and thank you so much for being here. And I mean, you're telling a story that is so important to be heard. Seriously, I'm really glad you're sharing it. Okay, so hard pivot.
Hard pivot.
He knows what's coming.
Yeah, no, I know, but I
know what's coming.
want to
You guys
brace
are
the
gonna
listeners.
judge my answer.
Doing those like really intense stuff, like people like challenging to survive, and I'm like, let's talk about ice cream. So, we have a tradition here on There's No Way in Creemee. We ask everyone who comes on, if you get a chance to visit one of our state's lovely Creemee stands, what do you order?
Well, Sweet Scoops is right down the road from me. Place is packed. I, first of all, get my dog a pup cup, and then, because she'll eat some kid's ice cream and it's not good. She's a little black lab. I will get either a black raspberry, no sprinkles, or if I'm feeling very, very generous to myself, I will get an Oreo milkshake.
Oh, interesting.
Those are my 2 options. Usually it's the Oreo milkshake, full honesty. I do like Creamees, but I like an Oreo milkshake more.
Nice. Someone else called out the pup cup there. Was it Mark Redmond?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're in good company.
Yep.
All right, good.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on.
Alex. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right. Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creemee. Special little mini segment today
Yeah, on location.
on location.
On what location, Joanna? What happened?
We are in the Richmond Library, which is a really beautiful space in Richmond. And I launched my state senate campaign today. It was pretty exciting.
There's an applause button on here, but I forget which one it is, so I might get like a womp womp. I think so.
We have a really cool guest with us.
We do.
Hello.
Isa, who are you?
I am Joanna's child.
And a speaker in today's lineup.
Yes, I was.
Yep. What'd you talk about?
I introduced Joanna, and I was like, she's really cool, and she taught me about advocacy, and please vote for her, you know?
Thank
But
you
I didn't.
for that.
I didn't actually say that last part.
That's true, but it was sort of implied.
Yeah.
Being in my speaker lineup.
I wasn't gonna say don't vote for her.
Right. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That would have been a really bad look.
Yeah,
Well, you've said
no.
it now. So we've got it on.
Don't
recording.
take that
audio.
Don't take that clip out of context.
That would be hilarious. That would be a really fascinating negative ad if someone wanted to run one against me. Issa's own teenager, or Joanna's own teenager says, don't vote for them. Yeah,
Well,
that would be funny. It's not like
It's
But to
AI.
be clear, you are not saying that.
I am not saying
Right.
that.
Right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
If
You
anyone tries to use that clip, we'll just say it's AI.
You can't vote.
Right.
This is true.
But if you could,
I
you would
would-
vote for.
yeah.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Do you think that teenagers should be able to vote?
I feel like I heard somewhere in England or somewhere not America, they just changed the voting age to 16. And it's not something I've given a lot of thought. Maybe I should give this more thought. I don't know.
No pressure.
Probably, I feel like there should be a test you should take if the voting age was lowered.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like a driver's thing, but, for voting.
Maybe we'll have you back to flesh that out a little bit more.
All right.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a little unfair. We've sat you on the guest seat and then just immediately
Yeah, we
turned
totally
all
did.
the focus on you. It's a crossover episode between There's No Way and Kramer
Yes.
and There's No Way and Creemee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a
Well,
No
you,
Way
you
and
two have been doing a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Sort of.
No, we've
in
done.
your-
Well, we've done a few cool reels.
We've
I wouldn't
done-
call it a podcast. Would you?
I don't, well, it's
'Cause
not technically a podcast.
It doesn't come through the feeds.
Doesn't come
podcast
through the feeds,
No.
but
We could put it through our feed. We could be obnoxious, and like a lot of podcasts do, they advertise one
Yeah.
new one through their feed.
Well, maybe if stuff gets really busy through the campaign, we'll do that.
Right.
We'll just swap in.
Well,
one
Issa
week.
could guest host for you.
Yeah. That's true and terrifying.
You should be on doors.
exciting.
We'll see.
Be excited.
We'll see.
Get
This was
hyped.
a really exciting day. I'm
Yeah.
really so happy that.
So how'd it go?
Yeah, it was good.
yeah.
I mean, it was like, I mean, going from being campaign manager to candidate has actually been, it's just been surreal. Like, so, I mean,
I think it's been smooth though. I think.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Like, the room was packed. Like, I was so appreciative of everyone was here. And, I definitely felt a little nervous giving a speech, but I think I got through it okay. And Corinne made amazing cookies, and they got rave reviews. And yeah, I'm feeling like 2 thumbs up so far.
Yeah, we got the brown sugar for the cookies.
We did.
We were a part of that
Yeah.
process.
I'm really proud of that.
Yeah,
Yeah. But then you forgot some other ingredient, right?
that didn't need to be brought up, but yes, it was purchased and put into the cookies, and everyone was happy, and that's all we need to know.
People were very happy with the cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If nothing else comes out of today, the cookies were a success.
That's where you're hanging your hat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels pretty good.
Yeah,
The signs are pretty.
Yeah, signs are pretty. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they really look good. They're very pink.
Well, they're
And
only
teal?
a little pink.
They're a little pink.
They're pretty
Just a little
teal.
pink.
Yeah.
They're not nearly as pink as my new boom stand.
No.
I was about to say
Yeah. You're
What
right
do
about
we
that.
call that, Issa? What color?
aggressive.
Aggressively pink.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't, you know that I didn't choose the hex code for the boom stand.
Why not? You don't have that power.
It's not, no.
This isn't okay. You know what?
I don't know if I can let you sub for me. I'm scared.
This is fun.
We'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk. I guess you guys are going to talk. Yeah, what else should we tell folks about today? What would they want to know? What did we cover for the other launches?
Positions, statements.
We covered that. in
Why are
the
you
interview.
running?
Okay, I am running against apathy. I'm running against the status quo. And I'm running against outdated models that have made Vermont unaffordable for Vermonters. And I'm running for the next generation. Give it up.
Woo.
And to create space and to make Vermont more livable and sustainable. Yeah,
We like the next generation.
we're big fans, right?
Big fans.
Yeah.
They're not getting what they need.
Yeah,
And we need to, you're right, create space for them.
help them out a little bit. They got to find their own way, of course. Young people do, but right now that bottom rung of the ladder is a little out of reach for a lot of young people.
I think I thought it was like a one-off here and there until I really started talking to people about issues in Vermont. I mean, this is going on like the past like 2-3 years. Like I would hear about a friend, oh yeah, like, my kiddo couldn't find a house here or whatever. But then like when I really started talking with people about these issues, it's like everybody's grown kid cannot find a place to live in Vermont. It's an epidemic and it's urgent. And like, I just don't see how we're gonna solve our workforce shortage if like we're scaring our kids away with high housing prices. And also, like, I like my kid. Don't tell them.
Hey, I said I'd vote for you.
Thank you. So yeah, so I want them to be able to live here. I want our kids to be able to live here. I just feel like it's just. So that's a big one. I feel like we need. You already know this, but I feel strongly about us having community-based education policy here. That's been frustrating to me, and I want to see us pushing harder on that and pushing back on Act 73, which I think is a mess. And
you work for a small business.
I work for a small business, and small businesses need advocates. I mean, it is astonishing to me. 99% of Vermont businesses are small businesses, but there's really no one fighting for small retail when we've got the oligarchy, like on our heels, really like right on top of us. Like it's so hard to compete. And Amazon could just pop up somewhere else any day and, put us all out of business. And it doesn't just affect those owners, although it does, and there are a lot of them in Vermont. It affects the people who work there and then the landlords who, they paid rent to, and it just goes on and on and on. So it's really important to be protecting those folks.
Yeah. Well, you work in the small business community. I do.
Yeah.
They're cool people.
Yeah.
They bring a lot to our state.
Yeah.
They sponsor our events. Mm-hmm. They bring tourism in. Nobody wants to come here and go to Gap.
Yeah.
They want to go to the funky Home Depot or Home Port.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People, when we have family visit from out of town, they always want to go to Church Street and check it out. And, I love to take them to like little places around the county, just like fun little shops. Like that's not, they don't really want to go to Starbucks. Like that's lame.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. We're just about 10 minutes. So Issa, if you had to choose a fight here, would you rather fight one duck the size of a horse or 50 horses the size of ducks? And why?
I'm gonna say 50 horses the size of ducks, because I feel like they're not very stable animals, and especially if they were that tiny, I feel like I could take them. But
50 tiny teeth though coming at you? They're dull.
Yeah, they're like square teeth. It's neither options are like I'm elated about.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not something I've given much thought at all.
Really? This is the first time you've had to think about this question?
Yes.
I'm shocked. This is the problem with public education.
I don't think it is.
Your mother's kind of giving me an evil eye there.
No.
What would you rather fight, Mom?
I don't know. Like it's not, I don't think I accept the premise of the question.
Rejecting the premise, refusing to answer the question. That's the conclusion of this mini episode.
I see.
Crossover between There's No A in Kramer and There's No A in Creemee.
Yeah, crossover episode.
Yeah.
That was fun.
There's no way in crossover.
Oh.
There is an A in Kramer.
Nice. Yeah.
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 That's the joke.
That's a joke.
Yep.
I thought I'd explain it.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creemee on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creemee, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcasts and Spotify.